gold is so buoyant is because the central banks around the world. I don't know how many central banks are buying gold, but there's a lot of them, and it's record numbers. I'm seeing stats coming out, on a monthly basis, and country after country is adding to their gold portfolio or gold hoardings, and they want to have gold part of their foreign currency holdings, and you point fingers at a number of different reasons why that's occurring, but it is happening, and so that's the bid. There's this bid under the gold market by big banks that are buying the metal, and that's fantastic. It hasn't shown up really that much in silver yet, and that's one of the conundrums, I think, and maybe that's a viewpoint that we're going to go into a recession, or there might be, some think there's going to be a stock market crash. Who knows? But silver prices should be a lot higher. I'm a big ratio guy, and we are mining only 7 or 8 to 1 silver versus gold, and we're trading in the mid 80s, which makes really no sense to me. And you've got the solar panel industry now consuming something like 250 million ounces of silver this year, and the miners are only producing 850 million a year. Actually, a little bit less than that. And of course, the automotive sector is consuming about 100 million ounces a year. So you've got two markets that are relatively new, at least over the last 10 years, that are consuming 30 or 40% of the world's supply of the metal. And we're in deficits. There's going to be another deficit this year. We don't know what the number is, but the guesstimate is something in the order of 250 million ounces, which was very much like the last year's deficit. How do you run deficits like that and not have it show up in price? But I think silver is still looked at as the poor man's gold, which I don't believe it is. I think it's a strategic metal. Mm-hmm. It's a critical metal for everything we do. Even this room is full of silver. This TV's behind us. There's probably 5 ounces of silver in that big screen behind us here. And what happens to that? Does that get recycled? No, it doesn't, because it's cost a fortune to recycle it. So. And people will wake up to the silver story. I'm certain of it. I've been talking about it for over 20 years now, and I'll continue to talk about silver because I think it's the most important metal that we have as the human race. Really think interest rates have any impact on metals. People argue it all the time. Oh, we're going to get a rate cut of X amount, and gold's going to go up, or and so on. But if you do an actual long-term study on interest rates and gold prices, you see, we are having much higher interest rates years ago, and we're hitting all-time highs on gold, back in the 80s, and so inflation maybe has an impact, but the biggest thing that, as I said earlier, that's driving gold prices is the central banks. Something's going on behind the scenes that we're not really aware of, whether it's a currency reset, whether it's some kind of global currency, or whether it's a new Federal Reserve or a new reserve currency. Coming into play. What the BRICS do. Are they going to come out with a currency? Are they going to back it with gold? Because a lot of the BRIC nations are big consumers of gold right now. So, I don't have a crystal ball, but definitely, the world has changed over the last couple of years. When you have central banks being the record buyers, two years consecutively, that tells you something's going on. And though it doesn't appear those buyers are lightening up, they're in there every day buying more gold. So, I'm expecting to see $3,000 gold. I suggested 3,000 by the end of 2024. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see $3,000 gold in 2025, and that should drag silver up with it, and hopefully it gets back up to its old highs. 150 million ounces of that is recycling. Yeah. And so the recycling industry is a tough one to really measure because it's very price dependent. Also, technology is changing. A lot of that silver comes from is still X-rays, surprisingly or not. There's still a lot of old X-ray machines out there that use old film, and there's a whole industry of people that go around and collect all this film, and it gets recycled through the different refineries, throughout North America primarily, and that market is depleting. Who knows exactly what that means long term? At $100 silver, do you start recycling this television, or do you start recycling your iPhone? I don't know the answer to that. there's $2 or $3 worth of silver in your standard cell phone. It's embedded into that circuit board, very well, and extremely difficult to get out. The copper, there's a small amount of gold in there and some zinc as well, and getting the metal out of there is just very, very difficult, and it's very not very cost effective. So I'm not sure if recycling will ever increase to any great degree, unless we see multiples of where we're trading at today. On the supply side or the mining side, we've been around, we dipped down to about 780 million ounces at COVID, and we peaked at 880 million ounces in 2016. And last year we're at 830 million ounces, and this year it'll probably be around about the same. There's really no big mines coming online, and these deficits are real, and then they're not going anywhere. And as long as governments continually push solar panels and electric cars and continually get pushed around the world, and we're not going to stop producing televisions or computers or cell phones or refrigerators or freezers. I remember talking to one of our traders during COVID, and he was saying, geez, we're getting all these orders from these freezer manufacturers, for silver. And I had no idea that there was, of course, there has to be silver in it because there's a whole bunch of electrical components in there, but I just had not really thought about it. And the reason why, because they had a run on freezers, because everyone was buying meat, loading up on meat, and they had to put it in, obviously, in a freezer. So that we had a freezer shortage, and the amount of silver that was being consumed apparently was unusual. So look, it's a great metal to be in, and I can't speak enough about it.